Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Thanks for joining me for part 3. It will be a very long video of my summer album, so stick around. Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. This is part 3 of my summer album. I was just in the mood to keep creating, so I filmed quite a lot of footage and decided to edit it all into one last process video for this series. So make sure you're comfortable and you have a snack while you check out these last few pages of my summer trip, the first part of our summer trip, I should say. So this is part of the video I edited from the last process video, part 2. I mentioned this in the last video that I was creating my pages out of order. So it doesn't really matter for you guys unless you were following the last video. But just know that my album is in the order it should be. I just got my days mixed up a little bit. There's only so many pool day photos you can have where you start to get crisscrossed and forget which times you were in which pools, right? So I guess that's a great problem to have, a vacation issue. So I am just putting together these pages of our our third and last day at Jellystone as a family. So I have this smaller postcard that I'm using just as decor on the top. And then I created this 6 mini photo layout in Diptych, which is the app I use to create all of my photo, either to size them smaller or to create a grid or to put my photos into a circle shape. I know that you can do that in Canva, but I'm not really Canva savvy, so I just prefer to use the Diptych app. And then I am just going to embellish the front of this with a few puffy stickers and a little label sticker that just says that we were pool hopping. Then I'm going to move on to the right, and I have this Seeking and Finding pattern paper that I just used as a journaling opportunity. So I'm going to layer just some washi, my favorite washi from last year's travel kit, and then this chipboard that says take it all in, all the sights, all the sounds. And I used these little plastic puffy stars as bullet points, and I wrote that it was about 90 degrees with 90% humidity, so we were very glad to have several pools to choose from. I had spoke with management in the morning, and I ended up getting my in-laws their own cabin right next to ours, which was awesome. And also wrote that we were in and out of all the pools all day, that all 3 of us in my family got burned, but that it was worth it. And being all together is just such a treat. I also thought I was recording when I was not, so I apologize. On the back of that paper I was just journaling on, I decided to embroider and hand stitch this, well, not really embroider, but hand stitch the plastic that says more outside and less inside with some red embroidery thread. And then I just created this giant shaker pocket, and I was just showing you the sequins that I used to put inside of it. Something else I decided to do to bring in a little bit more red on this page and to help seal off the hole punches is just created these paper reinforcers using this old pattern paper from the paper person shop. It's actually an old 3x4 card. I was looking for reds and pinks, and I was like, oh, let me just use this card. I probably will never use it. So it worked out really well, and I just added that little extra pop of color along the left side of the page. And then you can also see I've been creating these little tabs that have the day of the week on them. I did that off camera. I just used some cheap little repositionable tabs I got at Dollar Tree, and I stamped the abbreviated date, which is the same technique I did in my week in the life notebook to create tabs for each day. And then I did go back and stamp dates on photos and in places where I had forgotten to do that. And I just did all of those things off camera because that's not that exciting. You can just see kind of in the left corner there that I had stamped the date between the postcard and the photo. All right, so this next page is so much fun. I have this yellow floral paper, again from my Allie Edwards stash. I can't remember which kit, but I am going to take all these little tiny photos and make a little collage grid. So I'm going to just arrange these photos, and I will read you the journaling that I did on this little, oh, and by the way, all the embellishments I'm going to be using for this page come from Vicky Bouton's Where to Next collection, and then I also sprinkled in some puffy stickers that I recently picked up just in the greeting card section of Target. So there's this little die cut piece that says on the agenda for today, and I liked it because it had that sort of whimsical, like, notebook spiral notebook edge to it, and so I used that little journaling card and tucked it behind the bottom left photo. And I just wrote that everyone went swimming all morning. It kept getting cloudier by the hour. I went back to nap, and Lori, my mother-in-law, did big bubble fun outside with all the grandkids. They loved it. So all these photos, thank God, were taken by my sister-in-laws, who sent them to me knowing that I was going to be creating this album. They're pretty used to my request for photos at this point, and they sent them to me, and I was able to create this awesome page because of their kindness. So thanks, Sam, Jesse, and Chrissy for sending me these photos. Oh, and Kit. Kit, I think, might have sent some as well. So this is just so much fun for me. Once I decide where all the photos are going to go, it's just a matter of like playing with all these die cuts. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm creating a page outside the page protector. So I just collected a bunch of the die cuts that matched the paper behind it, the yellows, and played off of those colors and the color, which is also why I selected the colors on the left for the shaker page with the red, pink, and orange sequins. And yellow sequins that are in there. So it's all like warm tones when you look at these two pages next to each other, the shaker page and the collage page that I'm making now, I guess you could call it. I also found this little tag that I'm going to tuck on the top right where I'm going to stamp the date and add some baker's twine just for a little extra something. And then just play around with where I want to place all of these extra pieces that I've pre-selected. Again, I'm really sorry that I forgot to press record on the shaker page. That was a huge bummer because, well, I wasn't going to record myself sewing, like stitching all around the border because that would have taken forever. It does take quite a long time. I have to poke all the holes around, the page, and then I have to, lace up the needle and do the stitching, and that does take a long time, but it is so therapeutic for me. I don't know, the like repetitiveness of using my hands in that way just is everything for me. I love it. So I really enjoy doing that technique in my scrapbook. So I do apologize again that I totally forgot to press record. I really thought I did. So that just goes to show, I don't know, your girl needs some more rest, I suppose. So anyways, back to this page. I really love the way it turned out. I think I did a great job of balancing sort of all the different elements. Sometimes I get a little worried that I over embellish and that it looks too cluttered, but I think in this situation I had a really nice like sort of zigzag diagonal movement. So if you look on the top right, you have that extra little tag peeking out and the floral there, and then the butterfly die cut stamp that's lifted up on the foam tape so that it's got a little bit more of a 3D element. And then you go to the left and you see the orange butterfly, and then diagonal to the bottom right you have the grateful for this word phrase with the floral, and then the bottom left has the journaling peekaboo feature, and then another little flower. So I think it came out really, really nicely. So moving on, I'm going to flip over to the back. I have this other pattern paper that says the details and a spot for 6 different stories or photos. I did punch it on the wrong side, but I was not worried about it. I knew I could cover that up with some twine or ribbon, which is another one of my favorite techniques for embellishing pages in my scrapbooks. So this one, I liked the colors on the top of the details, that sort of blue color. There's a pink, a red, and a orangish yellow shade. And I pre-measured the photos in print to size, which is another app I use. And I printed out 6 photos from the evening and the second half of our last day together. So this was when it started to rain and get really cloudy. So these are all detailed photos of just what we were doing while it was raining. So Matt made us a delicious dinner. He did chicken and steak kebabs, rice, there was roasted vegetables, garlic sauce, hummus, tzatziki, pita. It was so, so good. Everybody loved it. So the top left photo is some of the people in our cabin eating dinner. There wasn't enough room, obviously, for all 18 of us, so half the families were in our cabin, and then the other half were in Tully and Kit's cabin, which was right next to ours. And because both of them were handicap accessible, in the middle of the two cabins was this big concrete area, which is where the kids were all doing the bubble things earlier. So it was really nice to have that whole area kind of all to ourselves. Then the top right picture is Matt and his brother Josh just being goofy, sitting on the futon there, hanging out. Then the middle left photo is Nora and Renee and Fiona, the older girl cousins, giving each other back rubs. They watched K-pop Demon Hunters. Then there's a picture of my sister-in-law Sam with our niece Sutton. Then a selfie of Sam and I, and then a picture of some of the journaling supplies on my bed, because that is what I did during the rainy afternoon while dinner was being cooked and all that kind of stuff. So I just decorated it really simply. I decided not to do any journaling on this side of the spread because the right side is going to be a continuation of this section of our day. So I just kept it simple with a few definition stickers from Heidi Swap. One says playful and the other says fun. Then there's a couple puffy stickers. I brought in the rain cloud sticker and a camera. I stamped the date and I put some daisy trim on the left side. I love the way that that looks, and it covers up the mistake I made with the hole punches being on the wrong side. So now moving on to the right, I liked this larger photo because you can also see the cabin through the window of, the way that our little bungalows looked. Then I used my Sharpie creative markers. I was just going to leave this as is. They were playing Uno, obviously. And then I decided to get some embroidery thread and stitch the letters. So that was super fun. I did that while I was watching The Handmaid's Tale. So I got a little embroidery stitched crazy over here. And I'm going to do that same thing down here with the star card that says, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. And that's a quote by Eckhart Tolle. So I'm showing you in a very, very sped up version because I felt bad that I accidentally did not press record on the other shaker page where I embroidered how I do it. So I just poked the holes first. I had that piercer. It's a Tim Holtz product. And then I have an embroidery needle, and I taped the back side to the back of the photo, or of the card rather, and I stitched from the bottom up, and I just kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I'm sure there's a name for this stitch. I have no idea what it's called. I'm not like a sewer by any means, seamstress, what's the term? But I do like to stitch on paper for fun. So I'm going to get that all filled out with the stitching around the star. That's my attempt at bringing in some more pink to this journaling card, due to the pink being on the left side of the spread with the daisy and the daisy embroidery and the stickers that I used as well. Those are both pink. So then I'm going to add just a few more puffy stickers because I wanted to add some texture. I felt like it looked a little plain even with the stitching around the star. I still didn't like all of that negative space compared to the journaling that was on the right. And then I'm going to do the hand stitching of the Uno title off camera because that took quite a while. And I even decided to get a little bit more creative and add some stitching inside of the letters. So you'll see that in a real-time close-up in just a moment. I did not film the entire part where I was stitching, again, just for the sake of editing and for all of you being here for a while. So it was a lot of fun. I read the journaling from the card for you, so that's what's happening on these two pages. And again, really happy with the way that these pages ended up looking. Also, absolutely love using my stash. And what I typically do is I will go through, like, primarily trying to work with last year's travel collection for this album. So I'll go through those elements first, like the pocket cards and the embellishments, and see if anything makes sense for the size of the spot I'm trying to fill and the color scheme. And if I can't find anything in the collection, that's when I'll go to my stash and try to look for a card that matches or embellishments that match. So here you can see the close-ups. There's the Uno, all hand stitched, looking super fun. And then on the back side of this pocket page, which is the 2 4x6 card configuration, I have the Documenting the Adventure, and that's a card from last year's collection, and so is the Wander Wonder repeat. And on the top, I just picked 2 photos that I took of Nora and I in the car. We were leaving the campground Thursday morning to head to Cedar Point in Ohio. So I just embellished the photos with some word phrase strips. It says, "Today, loving it and going." And then I found this puffy car with the suitcases on top. I knew I wanted to include that and go from like really bright colorful to a neutral, which is always a fun little thing I like to do sometimes. And I found the chipboard that said Wanderlust, so I decided to include that as well. I'll go back up and add that in a minute. And then on the bottom card, I just journaled that it had been raining in Indiana when we woke up, and it was raining in Ohio, so we took our time packing up, saying goodbye to family. We ate breakfast thanks to Kit and Tully, and took one last golf cart ride before leaving. The drive was made much sweeter by our Starbucks treat. They brought back raspberry syrup and cold foam on a temporary basis. Nora got a vanilla frappuccino with raspberry, and I got a white mocha latte with raspberry cold foam. Both of our drinks were delicious. We arrived to our destination, Cedar Point, by 1:45. So that's the journaling I did there. And then the bottom left corner, I embellished with a word phrase sticker, again, that says "Adventure is out there," and travel time, which is the chipboard, and then a suitcase. And then on the top right, I'm sorry, I very zoomed in because I filmed all of these segments at various times, and I don't know why I'm so zoomed in for this segment of filming, but I stamped "Let's Go" and "Road Trip." Those are from an old Allie Edwards stamp set. And then I found this little puffy black arrow that I end up putting facing to the right, because there is going to be a couple of photos on the right side of this spread using some other pattern paper that they kind of all go together. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll see it all like laid out. And as per usual, I do my journaling off camera if there's a lot of journaling that I need to do. So I trimmed down this map pattern paper, and it's like half of the size of the regular, like 8 by whatever, 7 by 8 1/4. And then I printed out these photos. That's at the rest stop where we got our Starbucks, and saying that we are now in Ohio. And then a picture from our car looking out the window at the rain and just how cloudy and gloomy it was. Then I decided to pull out these old puffy stickers from Paper Person Shop that are related to travel, more because the colors all match. So I wanted to play off the red and the blue in the Ohio sign. So I pulled out this little bubble heart, a stop sign because we're stopped now, we're at Cedar Point. Then I also went and grabbed a chipboard phrase that's going to go in between the 2 photos. It says "Adventure Bound," a little red heart, and then I found this label sticker, circular label sticker in my stash, because I felt like most of the embellishments were circular shaped. So I put that at the bottom of the dashboard there and stamped "Not Today, Satan," because we were like, we're still going, even if it's raining, we have our rain shells, we'll be okay, rain's not going to kill us. However, it was really windy, so a lot of the thrill rides we wanted to do were not operating at the time that we arrived, around 1:45, but that was okay because we had to check in and everything. And get like our meal pass bracelets and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, and then there was that little road trip sticker I had. That was from Simple Stories. On the back, I adhered this label pattern paper, again, cut it in half. I used the top part to stamp "A Day at the Park," riding the roller coasters, because that's literally all we did, and used various brush pens from my stash to write the titles of all of the coasters we did and all the rides in the order that we rode them. So there was the Siren, the Valraven, the Top Thrill Dragster 2, Maverick, Steel Vengeance, Millennium Force, the Siren again, Top Thrill Dragster 2 again, the Gatekeeper, and then Nora and Matt rode Valraven at the very end of the evening. And then there was a little extra label, and I stamped part of a roller coaster stamp there. So I did the writing and the stamped roller coaster off camera, so you could see it close up right now, how that page turned out. I think it's super cute. I am going to add a little tab to the top of it, and I chose one that said "weather" because that is kind of a big part of the story. So then moving on to this other larger photo, I'm going to use this blue checked background. It's a plastic page, and I love the checked pattern. It goes along with the vibes for this particular coaster. It's called the Top Thrill 2, and I have this large photo of Nora and I in front of it. I stamped favorite ride on top of the photo in the cloudy section along with the date, and then I trimmed down this sign that I took right outside of it where it's stadium seating where people can sit and watch others go on this ride, because it's crazy. It is 74 miles per hour for the first launch, 101 for the second, and 120 for the third launch. It's a 2-minute ride, and it goes up to 420 feet at the peak, and it's a straight drop down. I had to close my eyes because my contacts were going to fall out. That's how fast I was going. So we did that ride twice. It was all of like our new favorite ride. It was super fun, and I think it is the tallest, fastest coaster in America at this point. I do think it has the record for that. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Again, just using some puffy stickers, and then I had this sticker that I bought at the gift shop, and it has the title of the roller coaster, so I just stuck that to the very top of the photo. Moving on to the back, I have another large photo of Nora and Matt. This, I believe, is Steel Vengeance. I could be wrong, but I think that's what this is. If it's not that, it's Maverick, but those were 2 rides we hadn't done together as a family, which was so fun that we were able to experience them together for the first time. And I just found this label that says right where I belong, and I wrote new fave unlocked, cloudy and happy. And then I have this definition sticker, again, trying to use those from my stash, that says fearless. Thought that was the perfect embellishment for this photo and our coaster day. And then again, just using some more puffy stickers to embellish. And the last thing I do is add some blue pom-pom trim that I have in my stash. I believe it's from a very large bag of pom-pom trim I got off Amazon last year when I was looking for December daily items. And guys, it's that time of year again. In fact, I'm doing this voiceover on Monday the 18th, and I believe tomorrow is one of the first preview days for December daily goodies. So I am super, super excited that we are coming back around to that time of year because it's my favorite community scrappy project. All right, but back to this one. So once I get the date stamped on there, I'm going to work on moving back inside the page protector. And again, that's something I like to do. I like to do layouts that are outside the page protector, and then I like to do some that are inside. It kind of helps me with my creativity from being like stunted, if you will, and it helps my brain kind of either, have to think outside the page protector or inside, which always kind of keeps things interesting for me. So you'll have to let me know if you like to do things inside the page protector or if you like to do them outside, or both, just like me. Here I am deciding not to embellish these photos, which I know is like, whoa, that's weird for you, Jen, because you're usually an over embellisher, but I just did so many kind of involved outside the page protector layouts that I decided to keep it super simple for the next part of this story. So I have the journaling all complete. I did already start to decorate the back page of this with some puffy stickers, and I thought the stars and moon were perfect, and then I just found a little label sticker that matched, and I wrote Cedar Point hits different at night. I'm going to decorate this tag, and it's more of just a place for your eyes to rest than anything, with a couple of sentences. So I stamped My Adventures Outdoor Expedition, and then the roller coaster, and I wrote Boardwalk Nights was a fun event with special performances, music, and a carnival feel, because that was like the special event they had for the time that we were there. And then on the right, I'm working on another page protector set. This one is 2 4x6s. So I have a large photo of Nora outside of the Valraven, which is one of our favorite coasters. And then I kind of had a hard time trying to find embellishments for the bottom right corner of it, just because, I don't know, I'm funny about negative space, and sometimes if I get too overwhelmed, I end up just abandoning the embellishments and leaving it blank. But in this case, I did end up finding this circle chipboard that said Everyday Adventures, and then this little teeny tiny cut apart from Studio Calico that says Let Your Little Light Shine. And I was looking for like that goldenrod color, so that is why I chose that embellishment. And I just fussy cut it into a circle. And then on the bottom, I have already the journaling filled out, which talks about walking over 20,000 steps, Nora picking out a really cute sweatshirt at the specialty gift shop outside of the Top Thrill 2 coaster, and talking about how we got back to the hotel and it was like 11 o'clock, I think, by the time we went to bed. So moving on to the back side of this, I have a 4x6 card that says, often when you think you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else. Fred Rogers, RIP. I thought that was a good quote for transition from, you know, being at Cedar Point all day, or sorry, from being in our camping trip to being at Cedar Point. And we always do this because it gives something for Nora to look forward to and lessens the sting of having to leave all of her cousins and her grandparents, which is always really difficult, and her aunts and uncles. So that quote was just perfect for documenting this story. I also snuck in this little funny photo of Nora and Matt. We had walked around and found Frontier section that we'd never seen, which had a petting zoo. We'd also never seen those, so that was really cool. And I just picked this adventure definition sticker from Heidi Swap and a couple of puffy stars, and I put a label that I had from Studio Calico, just talking about that, just a couple of sentences on the label there. Then on the right, I did the same thing where I had cut down pattern paper into a half size. I actually had this leftover map paper, and it was the perfect shade of green to go with that quote card that I just read to you. So I printed off the photo of Nora in the back seat that I took of her in the car. We had checked out and we were on our way home. So it was from my Instagram stories, and so I just kept the text on the photo that was in the Instagram story rather than cutting it out. It just says that we were on our long trip home, one more stop, and then we get to sleep in our own beds and our central air. I know, such a privilege, and we are truly thankful always. And then on the bottom of that photo, I just put a little black tag with gold foiling that says wander farther with some baker's twine, and a little tab at the top of the pattern paper that says road trip. The last thing I'm going to do, I did want to mention that the road trip stamp is from Allie Edwards as well. Then on the back side, I found this like marbled pattern paper from Paper Person Shop that I'm going to adhere to the back. And I saved the envelope from our hotel key card. So I taped that to the bottom, and inside it I tucked a receipt from our just pit stop at the outlets that we went to on our way home. And then above that, I added a little tag from my stash from Studio Calico. I stamped on the road on the top of it, and then I used my puffy stars as bullet points to journal about stopping for late lunch, where Matt got Shake Shack and Nora got Chick-fil-A. I apologize if you hear background noise. My daughter has her friend over and they're watching a movie and doing their best impression of Regina George. So name that movie in the comments. Anyway, back to the regularly scheduled voiceover. So I talked about going to the outlets. Around 3 o'clock, we arrived to some outlets that were closer. Not close. Well, yeah, closer, but not like close to where we live. So on our way home, I guess you could say. Nora was obsessed with the idea of getting some tube tops, so we took her to a couple of stores because the weekend was about to be very busy, and then heading into the week, it was just going to be nonstop, so we weren't going to have time for that, which is why we stopped kind of on the way home, where she grabbed a couple of things, and I have photos for that are going to go on the right side. But for now, I will just kind of keep talking about what I'm doing on the left. So to fill in that white space at the top, just about a 1/4 inch, because the pattern paper wasn't quite tall enough, I just found some washi. This is an old Heidi Swap washi in that same sort of peachy coral shade, and I didn't think it distracted too much from what's going on. Then I also I remembered that I had these stickers I saved from Nora's. She got herself my husband got her a Detroit Lions hat. So I kept the little stickers and put those on the outside of the pocket. And I also took this red circle label and cut it in half and used it to layer around the tag. I just felt like it needed a little something extra on the top. and I put a puffy car and a little like house there in the pink, because again, trying to play off of the peaches and the corals and the, you know, orangish pink colors that are the focus of these two pages, this page and then the page I'm going to be working on, which is the last page in my part one anyway of my travel album for this summer. I say part one because we are leaving in about a week, actually less than a week, to go to Pittsburgh for a week. So my husband has a work trip that we're going to be tagging along on, and I will also be adding that trip into this album. So anyways, I'm pulling lots and lots of items from my stash. So as you can see right now, like I have that label tag from Studio Calico. I think the stickers, like the label stickers, are also, those are Heidi Swap. This little half page is not my favorite, but I think I made it work. I just had to kind of try to come up with a creative way to make all the colors work together, even though I don't know that they necessarily do. They certainly wouldn't on their own, but next to the big patterned paper that says surprise, I think it works well. The reason I chose the surprise paper is because Matt and I could not believe Nora could fit into clothes at American Eagle. I just did not think I would ever be shopping there until like high school, maybe middle school. I couldn't shop there when I was her age, that's for sure. I think I remember being severely disappointed and like in tears over the fact that all my friends were wearing like juniors clothes and I was still wearing little girls clothes. I was so tiny. I don't think I could wear juniors like as, you know, 1, 3, or 5 until I was like a junior in high school. So 15, 16 years old. So that is why the flip up of this photo of Nora inside of American Eagle, there's a selfie Matt and I took. I posted in my Instagram stories that I just printed out that says we didn't think we'd be shopping at American Eagle till high school, but here we are, and we're both making like a what the F face, and I thought that was hilarious, so I had to include that. And I just created a little simple flip up, that's it, with a tab that I stamped details on. I always like to use my tiny attacher when I'm using the tabs just so that they stay longer. Then I decided I was going to write in the bottom right corner. Oh, I also put the little love sticker there. And I just talked about stopping at the Chipotle in Amsterdam on our way home because that's where I wanted to have dinner. And then we made it safe and sound by 9:30. I wrote nothing like sleeping in your own bed. Then I'm going to make a mistake, which is to stamp the date at the top. I hate the way it looks, so I need to cover that up. So I end up trimming down the back side of that pattern marbled paper that has just a ledger print on it and creating a little tag to journal on where I talked about just summing up the trip, saying that it was amazing, went by way too fast, and wish we had more time, but that we managed to squeeze in as much fun as possible in the time that we were given. So I actually end up really liking how the photo looks on top of the tag. And I thought it was pretty clever how I created the pocket, sort of quote unquote pocket, by using my X-Acto knife to trim around the letters in the word surprise. That's kind of a little fun something I wanted to do. So the last touch for this very last page of my trip is going to just be adding some puffy hearts. You know, my go-to embellishment is a good puffy sticker. And that is going to do it for part 3 of this fun little summer 2025 album. And like I said, there will be an entirely separate section to this album when we are back from Pittsburgh. So, oh, I'm like ready to do my outro and I forgot to just add that I'm creating a little hinge here, like a little place for the photos to sit in so that they don't just fall out without something stopping them from falling out. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to pop everything back in the album and let's take a look at all of the finished pages that I completed in this video. I'm thrilled that I was able to edit it down to about a half an hour, just over a half an hour. I thought this video was going to be like an hour long. I did film it over the course of a couple of days, so it's not like I just sat here and pumped this out really quickly. It did take me, I'd say, about a week to do this entire album, all said and done, on and off. Obviously not sitting here nonstop. I had lots of other things going on, but I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing how I put these memories down on paper and worked both in and outside of the page protectors with lots of stash items, with the majority of the inspiration coming from last year's travel collection from Allie Edwards. So I hope you were able to get some ideas and that you enjoyed hearing about our shenanigans. Let me know your thoughts, and if you find anything that you'd like to scrap lift, I would love to know. I hope you'll be back to see the next part of this album's trip, which hasn't happened yet. But until then, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss my content. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And don't forget, there will be a full flip through soon. Take care, friends, and remember that you are enough. Bye.